Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Talking Cryptocurrency podcast. I'm your host, Jason Rigden. On this episode of the show, we're talking to Aesir of Destinato. But before we get to the interview, I've got this quick message. I really hope you like this show. I put a lot of work into it. If you do like it, would you please consider doing something for me? Give me a review on Apple Podcasts. Now, if you're a hardcore podcast listener, you are probably sick of hearing this. Every show begs for reviews, and it's a little annoying. But it does make a big difference. Those reviews help people decide to subscribe. They help guests choose which shows to go on. Those ratings and reviews for the shows are a direct way you can help this show grow. So, if you like this show and you want more, please help me. Take the time and give the show a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes, or whatever they're calling it now. Hello, and on this episode, I'm here with Aesir from Destinato. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Jason, and thank you for having me on your podcast today.
Oh, yes, of course. So you could tell me a little bit about the problems you're trying to solve with this project.
Absolutely. So I'll tell you a little bit about Destinato first. We are a movement to create a utopia across the entire planet within our lifetime. And the way we're achieving that is we're building smart towns, homes, villages, and cities primarily for homeless women and children across the world. Our idea is that our utopia will be beta tested with the poor for all humanity. One of the problems that we're encountering, and one of the problems we're solving indeed with our cryptocurrency, is that the donation model for nonprofits is really kind of gone by the wayside. It is very difficult to create any sort of sustained social good movement purely on donations. And it makes that growth very, very slow. When nonprofits don't know when the next donation is coming in and there's real work to be done, that can really play a massive influence in not only the lives of the people we're working with, but also the lives of everyone involved. Part of the reason today, Jason, we have such a big homeless problem is that nonprofits haven't been given the tools they need to really thrive and excel. And the second problem we have encountered is it's very difficult to understand the science and successful recovery. It's often guesswork for who gets through, who does not. And that when you're creating a system that is also dealing with addiction, also dealing with personal trauma and issues, you have to create a reliable system. So our cryptocurrency merges both of these problems in one single solution. So on the outset, people we call impact investors or philanthropists who want to give to nonprofits, but also want to challenge the conventional model of giving and never receiving anything back. And this group is called impact investing. It's growing massively in the United States and worldwide. In fact, we see it as one of the solutions to create utopia for all of us. So impact investors on the outside can put money in the cryptocurrency. We call the cryptocurrency Destiny. So they put money into Destiny. They are then able to track with the accuracy and the beauty that is blockchain with perfect transparency to whatever they have sponsored. So for example, for a well in Africa, let's say they put money into a well in Africa. This is a typical development problem that when you put money into infrastructure, sometimes you don't know where it's going. So if they put money into a well, they'll know through blockchain, okay, this well is pumping out this much water per day. It's getting to this number many of people, and they can see it in live real time. Their money made it. Now they get data back to say that actually this is 100% went to the cause. It didn't go to administration. It's gone to build a well. And then if they sponsor a child, let's say, what we want to do around that child and those individuals in our community is these children are orphans. They've never had family before, and they've never really had any contact with anyone from the West, particularly in Africa. When you're dealing with children who have never seen a computer, don't know what one is, have heard of the West, have heard of America, had never really met anyone from there. What we want to do is anyone who gives money to anyone in our project, any child, any homeless mother, pregnant mother, whoever it is, will then through blockchain be able to communicate securely with that person and become like their virtual family. So that's the two ways it's working on the investor end. Then within our community, it will act as an economic cryptocurrency. I'll explain how that works, Jason. So any resident, when they wake up in the middle of the day, they will be given a universal basic income. So everyone in our community receives the same money each day. And this is our own crypto. Then for anything that requires a limited asset, for example, water, food, electricity, these things we believe should be human rights and should be given to everybody. But we also need to track how much we're using so we can project forward whether we need more, need to purchase more, whatever that need is. So for any limited commodity, an individual can purchase this using their cryptocurrency. And our idea then is firstly to track the limited resources we have in real time, number one. And that's very important for a small, sustainable, tight-knit community. The second one is that when people have gone through our program, let's say 4 years down the line, they graduated from our program, they're getting a job, they've been very successful in our program, we can look back then at their blockchain data, which will be very big at that stage. And it has all their health data, it has their educational attainment data, it has what they ate for breakfast every day for 4, 5, 6 years. And we're able to see then, okay, this is where they began, this is where they ended. We can correlate and see the success trajectories between all these graduates who've gone through our program and are able to say, yes, okay, using data and hard science, we can say that the successful recovery includes these elements. And that is huge for recovery. So, Jason, it solves these two big problems. It solves what happens when people give to nonprofits, where does the money go? So it solves transparency. The second thing it solves is when people want to give money, they can receive money back. It's an investment. As our economic community grows, anyone who's invested money in will receive money back, just like with Bitcoin, just like with Ethereum and other cryptos. And then for our community, it solves inequality and it allows us to provide more of the resources that we need in order to make the women and children of Africa, of Asia, of India, of the US, worldwide, we're able to give them more of what they need and help them recover.
And are you selling those tokens right now?
No, we're not selling the tokens right now. There's a lot of technology, as you can imagine, Jason, running this podcast that goes into making a crypto.
So it's still in progress.
It's still in development, correct.
And so what are some of the other ways you're going to be solving these problems on the ground?
So talking not about crypto, but talking more about on the ground?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So our solution, Jason, I know you're based in Seattle. I know a lot of your listeners are probably based in the US. Homelessness and worldwide. Homelessness is a huge problem, and it's not getting any better. One of the reasons it's become so bad today is that we don't have a social safety net. We call some of our medical system a social safety net. It isn't really. There's a lot of people fall through the gaps, and it's not really the care that people need. So in order to solve these issues, I'll tell you a little bit about my backstory, Jason. I was at university. I went to the University of Pennsylvania as an undergraduate. I became homeless myself. The locks were changed on my apartment. The landlord, who was a bit of a dragon, he lost the rental check I was paying by banker's check at the time. It's a really bad idea. But I was locked out of my apartment. And I was too prideful at the time, being a guy, to ask for help. So I slept rough in a graveyard for about a week. And Jason, this experience, it opened my eyes in a very big way to the reality that is homelessness. It really can happen to anybody. It could happen to your mother, Jason. It could happen to mine. It could happen to anybody. It can happen to yourself as well. They say that we're anywhere from three big time events that could, if they happen in quick succession in your life, you probably end up homeless. And it could be a missed car payment. It could be a big fine. It could be taxes, whatever it is. There's a whole range of reasons. And then when you're on the street, Jason, it's very difficult to get off. Okay. The resources are not there. You're in fight or flight survival mode. And the reality is, if you're not well educated, you and I are well educated, a lot of your listeners are today. But if you're not well educated and you don't really know how life works, it can be very difficult to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps, which is this myth we have that if you're homeless, you can just get yourself up. Well, unless you know how, it's great if you know how, you probably can do it. But if you don't know how, then you're out of luck. So part of what the homeless need is, yes, they need a home, but it's not enough to give them a home. I've been there and I've given them homes. We've got them into a new apartment. They've managed to get their rent sorted out. They're doing really well. Most of the time, they'll only last a couple of months, then they're out. we call them, they fly away. And when we tracked those people down, we tracked those ex-homeless people, we gave them an apartment, they left the apartment, we tracked them down where they've gone back to their community. We found this very confusing. Why would you choose to be homeless? Well, the reality is, Jason, that a lot of people are homeless and stay homeless. It's they don't know how to pull themselves out, number one. Number two, there's a great homeless community. These guys really pull together. They're like a family. And in a society today, particularly our Western society, it can be very isolating and lonely. Over in the UK right now, they've just announced a new minister for loneliness. That is actually now a government minister helping people with loneliness. It's become such a big issue. So the solutions are complex, as you can imagine. When we set out our objective, okay, we want to end youth homelessness. That's our objective. How do we do this? We researched about all the different ways, the fastest, easiest way to end youth homelessness and end homelessness altogether. The solution is complex because you have to build a village. You have to bring everything in-house. You have to build a home. You have to give them education. You have to give healthcare. You have to give therapy. And when you allow other services and agencies to get involved, people fall through the gaps. And I've seen this for many years in the social services. They fall through the gaps and they end up back on the streets. So what we're doing differently is everything that person needs to live a happy, successful life will be provided for them within the community. So day one, let's say we bring a homeless child in. And for homeless children in particular, Jason, they have a really tough time. If they go to a shelter, they're only allowed to stay 3 days and then they're kicked out. In California, they have a policy called family reunification. So if you're a fugitive from your own family, which is, there's a lot of great families out there, some don't work so well, some are a little dysfunctional. If you're a fugitive from one of these families and you're caught in any way by any of the authorities, whether it's social work, the state, the police, you're going to be sent back to your home. And that, for some people, they would rather stay homeless their entire lives than go back home. So we're providing them also one of the first orphanages that's opening up in the United States in the last 40 years. They haven't opened up, Jason. And the reason for that is surrogate care and foster care has been pushed as the only way children can recover. Well, sometimes when you take a child out of a family and you put them in a new family, the new family isn't much better than the old family. So we're providing also them, the orphans, a solution by creating an orphanage for them. And this is a place that they don't have to stay 3 days. They can stay 3 years, whatever they need in order to get the recovery and the success they need. But to answer your question, Jason, what we're providing is we're providing the community that they are seeking, and we're looking to enhance that community to make it even more effective, while also providing healthcare, education, therapy, and everything that person would need within the community model. We're doing this through towns, we're doing this through cities, and we're doing this through villages all across the world.
It's really taking a much more holistic approach to it.
Exactly, a holistic approach.
So what have been some of the challenges of trying to solve these immense problems?
Wow, the challenge. It's I think the challenge is that we're doing something so different, right? So often when a business, and I've launched many businesses, I've launched many startups, I've been a chief creative officer for many years. I've seen startups and businesses pass through my fingers all the time. So one thing that you discover when you launch businesses is that if you are too far pushing the envelope, if you're too different from everything else, it can be a little bit hard to find traction. And this was one of our earlier problems with the movement, is that we had this vision, we had a small team, we knew we wanted to do something very big. Now, how do we attract other people to get involved? And how do you do that when everything you're seeking to do is so different from the conventional model? For example, Jason, one of the things we do is we are looking to become the first nonprofit that does not accept nonprofit donations. Okay, we want to be the first nonprofit that returns your donation with interest. It's a completely different model, and it's riding on the back of impact investment. 5-10 years from down the line, it will be the status quo and the norm for nonprofits to do this. We're looking to create a transparent movement for nonprofits. However, it presents an immediate short-term difficulty when you're raising money, and part of your values say that we will accept donations, but ideally what we want people to invest their time, their talent, and their resources into making this happen. So in the beginning, we had some marketing troubles with that. How do you pitch such a big project to get people involved in a very big way. We're getting much better with those issues now. We have a marketing team. We're working on that. I think the biggest challenge for us was, okay, this project is so big. No one has ever done it before, Jason. That's the thing. No one has ever done this before. If we had a roadmap right now and we had a guide that some other movement or organization has produced, these incredible visionary works across the world, we could follow them or join them and work with them to make it happen. Unfortunately, the case is that we've never done this before. And also when it comes to these big themes, like, for example, we're recreating a culture right now. We're creating the Destinato culture, what we want in there. We're creating the education system, creating the healthcare system. We're creating a utopian movement where we're trying to do everything really well. And we're taking what's worked and we're dropping what has not worked. And what we have remaining is something that we hope all humanity can use. Well, that's the burden, right? To be able to have this honor of doing this and choosing to do this for humanity is a big honor. I don't think any of our team is really worthy of that honor. We've done nothing in our career to deserve this. We have such a hodgepodge of people right now who are really talented and really good, but you'd never know that they were this talented from their resumes. Some of the things our team have done are off the wall, and you would never think it, that they're working now on this big project, but yet we're producing it, we're making it happen. And we're moving forward not knowing the answers. We don't know what our utopian society will look like. We have ideas, strong ideas, and we're working towards those. But we're open-minded. We're creating this with a view that we want something that's useful long-term for humanity. We want something that is a better community model, better than the way we live today. No walls between houses, children playing together, children being raised in community, places where you know all your neighbors and they're your friends. We can create a world like this, and that's within our imagining. So I think the challenge has really been, okay, how do we break this down? How do we break down this big vision? How do we get people involved? How do we build this? And we're doing really well with that now. We have over 70 people on our staff. We'll be at 100 soon. They've all donated upwards of 5 hours per week to help us, which is phenomenal. You ask a lawyer to give you 5 hours a week of their time, and you're going to be charged quite a bit. All of our group are doing this at no charge at all. It's astonishing to see this, Jason, in a world where money buys the power to be able to make someone else do something they don't want to do. We're a voluntary movement. Destinato is different. We're voluntary. We're all come together for a single purpose, that we want to see a utopia happen, and we believe it can happen. But yes, to answer your question, the challenge has been positioning this, starting this, getting movement behind it when it's so different from everything else. And we've tackled that now. So we're moving on that. The challenge we're facing now is, okay, for example, Jason, we have land coming in Nigeria. We have land coming in South Africa, land coming in Zimbabwe. The challenge now is, okay, we want to do this big project. How do we deploy different communities across the world to different cultures? These are communities that will work and are very high tech. How do we do something that's akin to basically landing on the moon in terms of logistical complexity with a team of 100 skilled volunteers? That's a challenge in itself. So that's the one we're facing now. And it's a fun one for sure.
So actually going to be building communities all around the world. Okay.
Yes, building
and
communities.
And would these be like almost like towns from the ground up?
Yeah, this is like a redesigned town. So I'll give you an example of one of the towns we're looking at right now. So there's a big situation right now in India. We've all seen at some point in our lives the image of Mother Teresa feeding orphans in Calcutta. India is now fast becoming one of the big superpowers, massive population. Their children are still suffering. There are still millions of homeless children in India. The count is somewhere, I think the count is 60 million. It's either 20 or 60 million. I confused the two. But there's a lot of millions of children in India, a lot, and not a lot is being done with them. The education is poor for them. The resources are poor for them, and they've nowhere to go. So we're going to create the world's most advanced orphanage in Calcutta, India, south of Calcutta. And there, Jason, we're also going to create the world's largest playground for children. The current largest playground in the world is 6,000 square foot, and it is in Belgium. Holland. We are going to create a 15,000 square foot playground. in Calcutta for the children. These kids have nothing. We're about to give them everything. And this community itself will be for about 1,000 children. It's going to look a little bit like a college campus in some ways, to give you the best image of what that looks like, but with different, unique architecture. We have Dr. Sheila Prakash on our team. She's one of the UN leading architects. And we're working with her and a few other architects now to build a really impressive, beautiful campus in India that's Indian themed. And when I say that, I don't mean it's a Western designed Indian themed village. That's not what we're looking at. This is an Indian designed, Indian themed village with beautiful architecture that we want to provide hope for orphans everywhere. The second part of that community, Jason, is we're going to create an inpatient clinic to treat gangrene. Gangrene is, can you believe this? This is still an issue in India. This is still an issue in India. We have the cure. The World Health Organization gives it away for free. And yet there are still people in India, over 20 million of them, who have gangrene. This is insane. This is insane. So we're going to end gangrene in India, and we're going to do it through our villages. Anyone who has gangrene can come. We'll treat them. We'll keep them on our village for as long as they need that help, and then we send them out again. We want to create prosthetic limbs for them too, low-cost bionic limbs for them as well. Because we have the tech right now, Jason, to do all this. We have the tech right now to create utopia. It's just a matter of putting all the pieces together and doing it with a social purpose too. We can end youth homelessness in India. We can end preventable diseases, and we can do it while beta testing a new way of human beings can live together in happiness. That's a win-win in my book. But to answer your question, what these look like, they all look different. The smart city also in Zimbabwe, it's going to look very different to the smart village we have in India. Very different. We're looking to get 2,000 acres out there. We do have a land donation already, which is fantastic. We want to create a really big, vibrant city, almost like the Black Panther movie with Wakanda. Maybe not quite as advanced. We're not there yet, but definitely in terms of that thinking that I want, when people see our villages, I want them to say, oh, whereabouts in the West is this? Is this in Europe? Is this in the US? And then we tell them, actually, it's in the middle of Cameroon. And this is for Cameroon children who are orphans. And these are for homeless women and pregnant women. This is where they live. And they're like, oh, okay. Wow, it's really impressive. That's the kind of thing we want to achieve in terms of our visuals.
And I think we touched on it very briefly earlier, but how will you be financing these projects?
It's a great question. So we have a few different ways of financing it. One of the first ways I feel is I'm a first generation immigrant from Ireland. I grew up in Ireland many years. I felt after I accumulated a little bit of success in my working career that I wanted to get back to my home country. Right. I think many of us have this desire. And even if you're born in the States or you're born in the country you're in right now, and you have family that have come from overseas at some point, there's still a desire to get back in a meaningful way. I think this is just part of hitting a certain age where you feel like, yeah, this is part of who I am, and I want to get back in a big way. So one of the ways we want to fund these communities is to reach out to immigrants and to approach them for donations and investments back into their home country. Because what we can achieve, Jason, is that our objective is to end youth homelessness in that country. And once we set up a village, a town, or a city, because we're not starting small, we're starting big. Like in Zimbabwe, we're going to have at least 10,000 people in that city, maybe more, maybe up to 50,000. That's 50,000 people who are no longer homeless. And then when we scale and we grow things like that, it doesn't take us that many years, maybe a decade at the most, to have housed all the people who need housing within that country. And then for people who funded that just feels amazing. If they're from that country and they said, I funded part of this program to make this happen, wow. So we'll be reaching out to them. We do have our ICO with the blockchain. We do intend to do that once we've completed the final planning. So individuals will be able to donate and invest directly into these projects, and they'll know which project they're investing in, what they've invested in. It could be a house. It could be an autonomous tractor. It could be in the cost of education for a child for a year, which won't be a lot. So there's a couple of different ways. And then we have other ways coming in too, for example, including social impact bonds. So we're making a bond with the government of each country we'll be launching in to say, okay, for each person we successfully rehabilitate, you'll give us the amount that it would have cost you in savings. So for example, here in the United States, it costs up to $150,000. These are the latest HUD estimates $150,000 to keep one homeless person on the streets for 1 year. And that's between services, hospitalizations, incarceration, everything. It's $150,000, right? So we're going to house them for $40,000. And then we're going to say to the government, okay, we've successfully rehabilitated this person. I'm giving you an example now in Los Angeles. We successfully rehabilitated a person. They now have a job. They now have income. We'd like from you now the cost, that $150,000 is a one-time payment to say job well done. This is called a social impact bond. So we have that coming in. And then we have other things too that are going to bring in the finances. For example, every business, for every graduate that leaves our program, let's say you're a graduate, Jason, you've just graduated, you have a really great idea for a laundrette, let's say. So you're about to go back to your home community. And this is our vision, that the homeless of the streets will return back to the community, the same communities that they were begging in. But this time they return with their heads held up high, with jobs, education, opportunity, and a business. So that when they come back, they're coming back with change for other people. They become the change we wish to see. So with this in mind, any business that we're funding out of our program, any graduate business, let's say, Jason, your laundrette, you'll agree as part of the graduation process, the investment process, all this thing, that you'll include our cryptocurrency as a payment option for your laundrette. And this will be the same for every Destinato business across the world, that will be connected through our own crypto, creating almost an economy from the ground up for the poor. And if you think of it this way, right now we have the pyramid of inequality. Okay, I wish I could draw this for you, but hopefully your listeners at home can see this. So if we have a pyramid, at the top of the pyramid, actually you can see this on your banknote. If you have a US $1 note, you can take it out right now and you'll see the pyramid with the eye on the top. So the eye on the top represents often the government or the top people, the top 1%. Okay, they're at the top, and the money, if you look at the flow of money, that goes down the pyramid. Okay, so the people at the top of all the money, what they spend trickles down, it all trickles down to the bottom. The problem with this model is it's great if you're at the top, it sucks if you're at the bottom, because by the time the money gets to the bottom, it's been used up on meals, on cars, on education. It's trickled down and lost a lot of its value, right? So in order to get, right now there are 48 million people in extreme poverty in the US. In order for us to really help them, we have to create an economy from the ground up for them. And that's what we're envisioning our crypto will become, by working and focusing with the poor, by building businesses with the poor, built on the different economic system that is blockchain. We can develop that economy from the ground up. And then for income inequality, the pyramid can still trickle down like it normally does for the dollar. But Destiny will go from the ground up. And then when we meet in the middle, we'll have taken 48 million Americans out of extreme poverty. And we can do that within 15 years. And that all starts with crypto. We envision Destiny becoming one of the second currencies of the US, and it's going to become focused on the poor. The poor can experience, here's the great thing, the poor are only defined that way because they don't have money in our current system. But they're no less capable, they're no less determined, they're no less human beings. We can create a new crypto that works with them, works for them, that helps them become affluent in their own way, and give them also the food, the water, the resources, the education, the hope that they need. So you can have, the amazing thing is, Jason, if you have crypto, and this is the future of crypto, you can have a person who makes very, very little, who is just as rich in terms of their lifestyle and who they are, than someone who is driving a Rolls Royce and eating fancy meals and has a lot of money. I don't mean that in terms of luxury. I mean that in terms of the basic things that they need in life. You can create a world with crypto where the poor have just as much as the rich just have different qualities of things. And that's completely fine. So that is kind of one of the big impacts of where we see our crypto going in the US. It's something that's been talked a lot about with crypto. Everyone wants to do this. Everyone wants to create an economy with crypto. There are a bunch of groups doing this right now. How ours is different is that we're using data, we're focusing on the poor, and we're a nonprofit. We're not doing this for money. We're doing this because we believe that we have the strategy that can make a true difference in the world.
Sounds like a really amazing project. I know a lot of people say they're trying to change the world, but if you can pull this off, like the impact you're having on the lives of individuals is just incredible.
Oh, thank you so much, Jason. Yes, we'll be benefiting around 20 million people next year. We're creating an offline education portal that's going to have about 50 gigabytes of information that we're going to have. It's going to be on an SD card with executables for Windows, Linux, OS X, iOS, and Android that we want to send across the world or have as an offline portal. So this is one way we're getting involved directly right now. And, if people at home, if this sounds fun to them, if this is something they'd like to get involved with, by all means, check out our website. It's destinato.org. We have always looking for talented volunteers. And together, Jason, we can really make a difference. Change the reason our world looks like it does today is because people wanted to create something better. And when they did create something better, the world is improving. That's beyond a shadow of a doubt. Now comes our time, our generation's time to step up and say, okay, we have one life left to live. Jason, you and I, the people at home, we've less than 30 to 40 years left on this planet, and then we're dead, right? Then we're dead. We're gone. Our consciousness is gone. We can't allow that opportunity to pass by without producing real good and real work for humanity. We just can't. It's a waste of life. So I say, let's join together and create this better world. We can do it. We can do it. We have all the resources today that allows us to create a utopia. If we come together now, we can build it. Otherwise, the alternative is if we do nothing and we choose inertia, we choose ennui, we choose boredom, we choose to do nothing, we'll inherit the world that we're getting right now, which is one where not a lot of time or effort goes into doing what we're doing. The alternative is so much better, and all it requires is people coming together to build it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
And thank you for your time today, Jason. Thank you. And best of luck to all your audience. Blessings to all of you. And together, I believe we can create utopia.
Thank you, Aesir, for coming on the show. If you want to learn more about Destinato, check out the show notes. I've got all the links right down there. You've been listening to the Talking Cryptocurrency podcast. My name was Jason Rigden, and I have been your host. Thank you for listening to the show. If you liked it, would you please consider giving us a rating and a review on iTunes? I look forward to talking to you again soon. Have a great day.